Hello, this is Dr. Ramachandra. I'm senior endocrinologist working in Diabetes Endocrinology Clinic in Newton, Bangalore, India. Please watch this video.
Okay, let's dive right into this fascinating patient education explainer brought to us by Dr. Ramachandra, senior endocrinologist at the Diabetes Endocrinology Clinic in Yelahanka, Bangalore, India. Today, we're unpacking something literally every single one of us has experienced, but, probably never fully understood. We're going to look at the secret science of ticklishness, exploring exactly why our bodies react the way they do to a simple touch. Here is our roadmap to understanding this quirky human reflex. We'll be looking at 1. The tickle mystery, 2. The brain's tickle blocker, 3. 2 kinds of tickles, 4. Evolutionary theories, 5. The lifespan of a tickle, and finally, 6. A clinical perspective. We're moving from the hidden brain machinery to human evolution, and finally, right down to your personal nerve health. Let's get started. All right, Section 1, the tickle mystery, or why some spots are far more sensitive than others. So we all have those completely vulnerable spots on our bodies, right? The armpits, the rib cage, the neck, and the soles of our feet. Well, science suggests your brain actually treats a touch in these areas as a potential defensive situation. It isn't just that the skin is thinner there, it's uniquely wired for sensory processing. But that brings up a pretty glaring question. Have you ever noticed that you simply cannot tickle yourself? Literally, no matter how hard you try. You can use the exact same pressure on the exact same vulnerable spot, but the magic, or, the panic, just isn't there. Why on earth is that?
Moving on to Section 2, the brain's tickle blocker and how the cerebellum predicts touch.
To understand why your own touch feels completely different than someone else's, we really got to look at the neuroscience. See, your brain is essentially running a real-time, predictive surveillance program on your own limbs. And this brings us to an incredibly fascinating concept called sensory attenuation. Basically, it's the brain's mechanism of downplaying predictable, self-produced sensations so that it can pay way more attention to unexpected external stimuli. Your brain is acting like a highly sophisticated spam filter for your own movements, dulling the sensation so you just don't overreact to yourself. I mean, think about it. If your brain didn't do this, just wearing clothes or swinging your arms when you walk would be incredibly distracting. Let's actually break down how this happens step by step. First, you move your hand to touch your own skin. Second, the cerebellum, which is a region right at the back of your skull, generates a highly specific prediction of the expected touch. And third, the somatosensory cortex suppresses the sensation entirely because it matches that prediction perfectly. Basically, because the sensory result is entirely expected by the cerebellum, your brain completely dampens the ticklish reaction before it can even begin. Pretty wild, right?
Okay, Section 3, 2 kinds of tickles, because not all tickles are created equal.
You might be surprised to learn that science actually classifies tickling into 2 very distinct categories, and each has its own evolutionary purpose. First up, we have knismesis. This is a light, itchy, creeping sensation from a feather-like touch. You can actually trigger this yourself if you lightly brush a feather over your own skin. Its job? To alert you to crawling insects. Then there's gargalesis. This is the heavier, repetitive pressure on specific areas that triggers laughter and movement. This is the big one, the heavy, laughter-inducing sensation that absolutely requires another person to initiate. Which leads us perfectly into Section 4, evolutionary theories. Why did tickling evolve in the first place? Tickling actually remains one of the biggest unresolved mysteries in modern neuroscience. But evolutionary biology gives us 4 really compelling possibilities to explain why our bodies are wired this way. First, it might be defense training. Think of tickle fights as essentially mock battles, teaching kids to protect their vulnerable ribs and neck. Second is social bonding. Tickling is one of the earliest forms of communication and trust building between infants and their caregivers. Third is the detection of external threats, like a spider crawling on your arm, which triggers a sudden fight or flight response. And fourth, it might be linked to the evolution of laughter from rough-and-tumble play in early apes. So whether it's teaching kids to protect themselves, building deep trust, or reacting to creepy crawlies, tickling serves some profoundly important evolutionary purposes. And here's a super fun fact for you. We aren't alone in this. Great apes, like chimpanzees and orangutans, actively pant during play. And even wilder, rats produce high-frequency vocalizations, which are basically tiny giggles, when researchers tickle them. They even chase the researcher's hand around, actively seeking out more tickling. This absolutely proves that the tickle reflex is an ancient biological mechanism shared across multiple species. All right, Section 5, the lifespan of a tickle and how sensitivity changes across ages. Take a second and think about your own body, because your sensitivity actually shifts drastically depending on your exact stage of life. The rise and fall of the tickle reflex is just fascinating. From 0 to 6 months, babies generally aren't ticklish yet. The laughter response simply hasn't developed. Then we hit the early childhood years and bam, absolute peak ticklishness. This is the prime time for developmental play and social bonding. But as we cross 40+ years of age, there's a notably reduced ticklishness. The reflex fades significantly as our nerve function matures, our skin sensitivity changes, and our brains exert way more reflex control over time. But beyond just your age, your environment, and mindset completely dictate this reflex. For instance, highly anxious people are actually more ticklish, while feelings of anger or sadness drastically reduce it. When it comes to trust, you are far less ticklish with strangers. Your brain really needs to feel completely safe to allow that laughter response to take over. Surprise makes off-guard touches significantly more intense. And finally, consent is absolutely key. Non-consensual touch feels invasive and stressful, entirely shutting down the fun, playful aspect of gargalesis. Basically, your brain's processing changes entirely based on context.
Finally, Section 6, a clinical perspective. Let's talk about your nerve health.
To bring all this evolutionary biology right back to your daily well-being, we rely on the clinical expertise provided in this patient education explainer by Dr. Praveen Ramachandra, senior endocrinologist at the Diaplus Endocrinology Clinic in Yelahanka, Bangalore, India. Learning about these seemingly simple physical quirks gives us an incredible window into your overarching nerve health and exactly how your body communicates with itself. And that brings us to a very serious medical takeaway. If someone suddenly loses their tickle reflex, this could actually indicate a deeper neurological problem. A sudden unexplained loss of your ticklishness isn't just a quirky sign of getting older. It might actually be a critical warning sign for neuropathy or nerve damage that really warrants a professional evaluation from a doctor. So, I want to leave you with this final thought. What other invisible defenses is your nervous system running in the background right now? When you think about how your brain acts as a highly specialized spam filter just to process your own touch, it really leaves you wondering just how much unseen, incredible work your nervous system is doing to protect you at this very moment. Next time you catch yourself laughing from a tickle, remember, you are experiencing thousands of years of evolutionary defense and brilliant brain chemistry, all working together perfectly.